So a lot of people can get excited about this. So so as we go on through the night, we're going to give out some pretty cool giveaways for free. So let's kind of jump right into it. Like, so how the heck you set out to make a graphic novel? I mean, how do you even start that?
Yeah, there are a lot of things that you could probably pick to do if you want to stretch yourself that are a lot easier than this.
For sure.
You know, yeah, Jack and I were saying, and then our other partner in crime, Ed Kroll, who unfortunately had a dinner meeting tonight that he couldn't get out of. We all were just wanting to kind of do something different. There are times in your career, right, where you're at a plateau, and there are times in your career when you're kind of, you're looking for something to do and you're scratching around. And I was just in a place in my career where I wanted to do something different, and I wanted to do something that, would be a little bit more challenging. And I had this idea, and people always ask, where do you get the idea for Jekyll Island Chronicles? And it's really an amalgam of a lot of things. I mean, if you think about it, most of us that like to tell stories, we pull in a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and maybe we see something we like, and we start to kind of bake it together. So I always had this notion that, why is it that the superhero genre really only starts like in World War II, right? If you go all the way back and you look, Superman came out, and the transition between that and everything else that was behind it, I would just sit there and wonder, why not anything earlier? And what would superheroes look like in the 1920s? My grandfather was a Czech immigrant, and he fought for America in order to get his citizenship. So World War I, 20s always interested me. And I knew that they interested guys like Jack and Ed, who were, Ed is a poli-sci guy. He's a history. Jack is just, he's this great innovative mind. And I just asked him at a Christmas party one day, I said, you guys want to write a book together? And that was in December of 2012. And since that time, we've been on a rocket ship. And we started out going, okay, let's just do a graphic novel. And we all looked at each other and went, you're the only one that knows how to draw, Steve. How do we do this? And I said, I have no idea, but we probably need a story first. And that's where we started. We started with.
You said, what if we did a graphic novel, and you flip those words, what if, into how might we? And that's a question that has to be answered, right? It compels you to answer that question. Instead of what if, it's how might we create a graphic novel. And so since we had no idea, we're like, okay, well, let's figure this thing out. We don't know what and sometimes that worked to our advantage, right? We opened up channels that other people tell us, other professionals tell us, you're not supposed to go down that road. You're not supposed to open up that channel. But we didn't know what we were doing, and we stumbled in, and we were blessed, and we had all these incredible things happen to us. So it was quite the journey. Steve and I had this creative itch early on, and we knew we had to scratch that itch for sure. And we both worked at the same jobs, and we were allowed to be creative at our careers for sure. But there's only so much of being told what to do in terms of, hey, we need you to fill in the blank. We'd like you to whatever. And we both looked at each other and said, wouldn't it be great to do something where we're in control, where we get to say we want to, or we need to, or we'd like to? And
we can tell somebody we want to, right?
Yeah, really fulfilled what we needed to happen emotionally.
So you guys decide you want to make a graphic novel. Like, you guys are mentioning people, but just specifically, like, so who's the writer? Who's the artist? Like, who took on what role? Did you have to go find somebody that wasn't already your friend, or was it just, did you already know everybody, or how did that work?
That's actually part of the origin story of this work, is how we came upon our artists and such. But the three of us, Ed, myself, and Steve, are the creators. So we craft the story, and we can get into the details of crafting that story as well.
Okay. Yeah, we will.
Really, how we found the artist was, and I'll let Steve kind of go into how we came upon. This is one of those channels I was saying that other experts or other professionals in this industry tell us it really doesn't happen that way, guys. How in the world did y'all do it that way? And we're like, hey, this is the only way we know. So Steve, tell about the Savannah College of Art.
Yeah, we at work were and Jack and I, like Jack said, we're working for the same company that sells chicken here in Atlanta, and you know, we were both just kind of scratching our heads how we're going to do this. But I had connections with Savannah College of Art and Design, and they were working on projects for us, professionally. So we would hire students to come in and work on our uniform program, or work on what is the design of a restaurant or something like that. And I thought, well, I wonder if we could get the same kind of model to work for us as individuals. And so I went to SCAD and said, had you ever done anything like this for people that want to create a graphic novel? So can we go to your school of sequential design, and can we find artists, and can we help them create, or to help us create our world? This is what we see. This is what we want it to be. This is what we're thinking, but we need designers. And they said, absolutely. So they partnered with us. We had to pay money to, it was never done it before. So we paid some money to get this class, and they put students in the class. So we had about 10 art students in the class, and it was a semester-long project for them to create the pitch packet, which is right here. Here's what they ultimately came up with. This is the original pitch packet that was designed by the students at SCAD. And it was for us to be able to take it to production companies and to take to publishers to see, could we, in fact, get this thing? The wound up being our illustrator and our colorist for the first two books. So Moses Hester and S.J. Miller were phenomenal. They were like those above everybody, and they agreed to help us out. And it was their first gig as young artists. So
yeah, really cool.
Yeah.
You're starting to drop out a little bit, Steve, but what was really cool was we'd go down to Savannah. So we're in Atlanta. We'd drive down to Savannah at the beginning of their semester and say, okay, what is this? And we'd give them our early ideas, our vision for what a character could look like, the scene at Jekyll Island, the concept of diesel punk, the flying machines we thought we might need. And they're not, normal students might be taking notes. Of course, these people are sketching their notes, right? And they would turn their notepads and go like this, and oh my gosh, and we see our dreams come alive on their notepads. We go down there for midterms. We go down there at the end of the semester, and just check on them and give them more information. They begin sketching out and drawing worlds for us. It was incredible. And as Steve said, we saw the strongest artists, and there's a room full of strong artists. But we said these two have nailed it. They get us. They're already climbed inside of our heads, and they're understanding what we're seeing. So as Steve said, we hired them right out of class to be our artist, our illustrator, and our colorists.
Okay.
How we got started. So that was the team. That became them as the illustrator and colorist, us as the creators and the writers. So Jack, Ed, and I began to write this thing, and we started to chunk it up. So we were following a 3-act format, and we had Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. And we each kind of like, our responsibility was, you get Act 1, and you get Act 2, and you get Act 3. And we just began to write. And then we would get down in my basement in this room, and we would sit across the table from each other, and we would critique each other's stuff. So it was an ongoing process of trying to figure out that. But I mean, first we had to like lay it all out in, so this is what happens in Act 1, and this is what happens in Act 2, and this is what happens in Act 3. So we had to lay it all out, and then we started to write. And it took us, what, Jack, about a year to write everything? Yeah.
Okay.
But the interesting piece to this that we haven't talked about yet is that when we finished the class at SCAD and we had the pitch packet, we immediately found out that there was a guy who published comic books in our town outside of Atlanta.
Mile from us.
Yeah. And so we met him for lunch in Marietta. We showed him the pitch packet. We said, this is what we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day he called me and said, Steve, this is Chris Staros from Top Shelf. He said, if you guys can finish this, I'm in. We'll publish. Let's keep this all in Georgia. So our students were from SCAD. We were from Atlanta. Chris was from Atlanta. Jekyll Island, the story was, based in Georgia. y'all have to know, this is not the way things usually work. We kept getting verifications from people that were saying, like, I don't know what you guys did, but this is like not supposed to happen this way. So
yeah, no, it sounds like a definitely not the way things usually happen, and just kind of having talked to people that have tried. But so this is kind of the first part of our talk. I think we've kind of, this is like the process part, the making the actual graphic novel part. I know there's a lot of aspiring artists and writers in chat, so I definitely want to make sure that we give them an opportunity. Do you have, before we move on to the actual world, does anyone have any questions in chat about kind of the making, the process part, the actual publication part? I'm happy to pass along those questions before we actually move into the actual world that these two created. I want to.
Someone was asking,
question?
yeah, well, this is way earlier. Someone was asking about the publisher. So Steve mentioned Top Shelf, and that was our original publisher. And then Top Shelf was bought by IDW, right? A massive publishing company. So right now, our publisher is IDW.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay.
But we are a Top Shelf imprint for IDW. So our connection tissue is still to Chris Staros and Top Shelf and Lee Walton, who's over Top Shelf. But, you know, the tentacles now go into IDW. So when we're at Comic-Con, we're sitting in the IDW, you know, area, signing books and selling books and showing up with our cosplay, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, so we're proud to be part of both Top Shelf and part of IDW.
Okay. Well, that was interesting background. I'm not seeing any like questions on that. So let's just jump in. I mean, let's get into the actual world you guys created. So I've been showing off, there's 3 volumes. Oh. How did they come to agree with ideas? What was the main strategy? Yeah, you got at least 3 people working on this.
Yeah.
Did you piece it out, or did everyone, how do you work together like that among 3 people?
Well, I think
that three people help. 2 people you could get in an argument. 3 people helps for sure.
Yeah, we tell people this all the time, that now I know why the Beatles broke up. I mean, it's hard. It's tough to be good friends and to be in a creative process together. And we're still good friends, and the trilogy is done. So to me, if there's no win at the end of this, the fact that we're still 3 really good friends has been just phenomenal. But you know, so I've got probably the best art skill of the group, and so I would be sketching. So we got to have a guy on metal legs. What do the metal legs look like? Well, they look like this. This was the first sketch of the metal legs for, you know, one of our heroes, Peter Karavik. He's a guy who's a World War I vet, who's from Bohemia. He's trying to get his U.S. citizenship, and he's in an accident so he is fitted with metal legs. I'm working on a lot of this stuff. Jack and Ed are working on other ideas, are working on a history. But I think one of the really, really cool things that we found is that whenever we got together, and we were doing this once a week, right, Jack? I mean, when we first started doing this, we were in my basement once a week, and we'd all bring our iPads or our computers, and we'd open them up, and we would be looking at history from that time. So our story starts like in 1919, 1918, and goes all the way through the mid-20s. And every single time we were writing, we would just open up our computers and start looking for weird things that happened. Weird things that people didn't know about, things that we weren't taught in school, things that were just kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And begin to post all these on a board, and then try to stitch together a narrative of how could these things have related to each other. And that's how we began to develop the story. So we all were coming from the same center in the same place, but we were on individual pieces and components. I remember calling Jack on my way to work going, hey, I read something last night that I got to tell you about. Is this something we want to include in the story? So absolutely right. Or Ed would call me and have the same conversation. We kept in communication. And I think the most important thing is no one has an ego here. You have to be able to tell your good friend, yeah, that idea sucks. Don't we do that? Or, hey, that's a really good idea. You cannot hold it so tightly that you don't have the synergy of working together. Really, really is amazing.
Yeah, and we knew that if we felt that friendship was going to crumble or start to crumble or showed signs of crumbling, we'd drop this thing like a hot potato. We like it's not worth it.
Yeah. No, we here at Elite Comics 11, we tell each other our ideas are stupid all the time, but that's that's how you get the good ones. So
Yeah.
That's friendship, right?
Be able to do that.
yeah. Okay, so let's like I said, let's actually. I want to get into this world because then we're gonna start doing our giveaways. All right, so
Cool.
let's get into this world. So kind of so like I mean, why don't you, I'm sure you guys have your spoiler free setup for this universe, so why don't you go ahead and give them the short version of that, just the general overview, and then let's get into some specific areas of this world.
And Steve was already teeing that up a moment ago, talking about why World War I. It was an underserved, a lot of underserved stories there that really had almost zero presence in the comics world. And we thought, why is that? And we were so moved by our family stories and history that these more stories need to be told. And so we were so attracted to it. Plus, that time in world history also was just a fertile time for invention, right? I mean, think of the things that were invented at that time. You can think about World War I and World War I starting with fighting on horseback and ending with tanks and chemical weapons. Even the war itself, which straddled different eras of human existence. But during that time, so many incredible things were invented. So that served our needs as well, because we knew this was going to be we wanted to reflect this age of invention as well, and really highlight inventors and the dreamers, and then how those inventors and dreamers might serve to support potential heroes for our story. Right. And we knew that we had a hero story we wanted to tell.
Yeah.
And we wanted to go. We knew the world today was had plenty of brooding heroes, right? Plenty of heroes who were out for vengeance or who had daddy issues or whatever it might be. And so we were also itching to return back to some sort of call it what you want, maybe old-fashioned archetype hero. So we knew these heroes were going to have hearts of gold, and driven to do something for the greater good of humanity, and do it for that alone because it's the right thing to do. And then we knew that these heroes were going to need some sort of support system, inventors who could turn them into heroes, and some sort of financial backing, because none of these people are wealthy people, but they need money to help build them and turn them into heroes. So what place in the world during that time was the perfect ground for that to happen, the perfect place for that to happen? Was there a real place where inventors and wealthy people came together? And we stumbled upon something else, right, Steve?
Yeah, I remember the day.
Can we, I want to back up just a little bit.
Yeah.
So you guys are experts about this, but the audience has never read it. So why don't you? So I've mentioned that it's an alternate history sci-fi saga. Why don't you mention some of the names of the real historical figures that are in this story? I think that will let people realize how much the story would resonate with them.
Yeah, sure. So what was going on after World War I was that the whole world was being rebuilt and remade. New countries were forming that didn't exist. Old countries were going away. In the middle of all this, we had some people who were bent on destruction because the war didn't end well for them. A whole cabal of anarchists in our story called Xeno.
And not just in our story, but in the real world at this time. Anarchists were really trying to take advantage of this fragile world.
There's anarchists, and then
Luigi Galliani was a real guy who was responsible for planting, having a whole a network of people who were planting bombs, blowing things up. There was different anarchists in different places who were bent on destruction. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to create a series, a set of heroes that would battle them. Mm-hmm. And when we're at Comic-Con and people are walking by, the long and short of is it's anarchists versus action heroes, like the Avengers meet Downton Abbey. I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about. So characters that are in it, inventors like Andrew Carnegie and industrialists like Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, Charles Proteus Steinmetz, who was a contemporary of Edison that most people don't ever hear about. Of course, Nikola Tesla. But then you have also other people in the story that are trying to help this group of heroes battle these anarchists that are popping up all over the world. So we've got a global scale, right? We're kind of in New York. We're in Jekyll Island, which is a real place on the coast of Georgia, as a matter of fact, where Pulitzer had a house and Carnegie was a neighbor, and the Rockefellers lived there. I mean, this is real. In fact, you can go there today and you can stay in this hotel, and that is the real Jekyll Island Club Hotel. And it's there, and you can go dine in the dining room that are Gilded Age, where Carnegie would meet up with, with Rockefellers or the Morgan Vanderbilts. So there was all these people there. Funny, in fact, 1/6 of the world's wealth was on Jekyll. So what we attempted to do was build these industrialists, partner them with the innovators, create a world and an army of good-souled soldiers that were battling the anarchists that were trying to blow up the world. I mean, classic good versus evil stuff.
So you got anarchists, you got these historical figures. There's actually Woodrow Wilson there. And actually, I wanted to point out, like, throughout your story, you use essentially, what we know as history clippings in newspapers. And then the story essentially tells you the real or alternate reason for some of these, like, historic events. So that's really cool for the history buffs out there. All right. So you mentioned, so you guys, go ahead.
The long and short of it is you've got this new and original band of heroes that's being supported by all this money from Jekyll, and they're being supported by all these designers and inventors of the time in order to go battle the real villains that were out there trying to destroy the world.
Right. So you guys are from Georgia. There's a real Jekyll Island in Georgia. You just talked about it. So it's actually a place you could visit. And so that brings us to our first giveaway. So I got a question. This is about Jekyll Island. So, all right, Jekyll Island. So everybody in chat, the first person that I see to write, this is going to be a multiple choice. The first person that writes the right letter, we're going to give them something. You're going to win this cool giveaway. All right. So Jekyll Island, it's in Georgia. It's a real place with a strong historic legacy. We heard that. Which of these events really happened at Jekyll Island? A, the USA's first transcontinental phone call. B, the creation of the Federal Reserve. C, German U-boats destroyed U.S. ships off the coast of Jekyll Island. Or D, all of the above. So let's see who answers that right first on my screen. And then we got a prize for them. Haven't got it yet. A, B, C, there it is.
Very good.
Eric Dale, you are going to win the first giveaway. So let's, it's D, all the above. All those things actually happened off the coast of Jekyll Island. So, Steve, do you have the prizes with you? What is Eric going to win?
The very first prize is we're going to give you an autographed copy signed by all three creators of book 1 of the Jekyll Island Chronicles. And in conjunction with that, Jack, what else are we giving? Free Chick-fil-A coupons.
Free Chick-fil-A sandwiches.
Yes.
Oh, Chick-fil-A, free Chick-fil-A and a signed copy of Volume 1. So congratulations, Eric. You're going to win that. So that was our first giveaway. Don't worry. There's plenty of other giveaways we're going to be doing.
More to come.
So okay. So we know now that Jekyll Island's a real place. And then, is there anything else? You mentioned, what were some of the names again? So there was Rockefeller, Wilson's in this. What
Rockefeller.
other key characters do you want to highlight?
Henry Ford, Tesla, Steinmetz. We have politicians who are also involved. You saw the picture of Woodrow Wilson, and the government has to stick their nose in it, and they do. So there's plenty of government figures in there.
J. Edgar Hoover's in there.
Hoover's in there.
Yeah.
If you go to England, you've got Lloyd George in there. You've got different places and different people all across the world that are showing up, that pop up. Jack Dempsey is in there in a scene where he's teaching somebody to box. So you never know who's going to show up. We've tried to just bring these characters in a real kind of natural way where Babe Ruth is in there. Babe Ruth is in book 2. We actually have one of our main heroes, Peter Karavic, in a home run hitting contest at the Polo Grounds against Babe Ruth. So you really find these people just kind of stitched in all throughout. You never know who's going to show up.
We have breaking news. The winner of the giveaway is in Canada, so he's going to give up his. Well, we'll just make the next giveaway that much stronger. Let's give the Chick-fil-A vouchers to the next giveaway winner, one of the other giveaway winners. No problem.
Toronto? Are you close to Toronto? We got them in Toronto.
All right. Let's see. Let me see what
we can send along, since we're not going to do the Chick-fil-A cards. We'll send him a free, or her a free, Jekyll Island Chronicles coaster.
Awesome. So they'll get you hooked up with something. I got a question for you guys. So people are asking, where can I get these? So where can they get? All 3 volumes are out. Where can they pick them up?
Anywhere. I mean, they're literally everywhere. They're in Barnes and Noble. You can go to Walmart.com. You can go to Target.com. You can go to Amazon. You can go to there. If you want autographed copies of all 3 of them, there's actually JICautographed.com that sells autographed copies of all 3 volumes all the time. So you can go to Forbidden Planet. You can go to Books A Million. Any place a book is sold, you can probably order your copy of Jekyll Island Chronicles. And that's part of the benefit of being with a powerhouse like IDW. They get us into channels. It's been fantastic.
So you're not, just look up Jekyll Island Chronicles. You guys are going to find plenty of places to pick it up, and all 3 are out right now, so you don't have to wait. Okay.
Allie, the other thing that they could do is they can go to JekyllislandChronicles.com, which is our website, and we have links for everything on there. So we have links for all the books. They go to Amazon. We have links for our merchandise. We've got shirts. We've got other merch on there that you can get. So if you're ever confused, just go to JekyllislandChronicles.com and check us out, and you can order stuff from there.
And links to our.
So we've covered.
No, go ahead.
What's
Go
that?
ahead. I was just saying, and links
I was
to our
going to say
Yeah. Go for it.
So yeah, you guys will find, if you Google Jekyll Island Chronicles, you'll find a bunch of places to pick these 3 volumes up. So we've covered. There is a broad array of characters in the book, but what about let's get into the locales. I mean, this is an international saga. There's a lot of American history, but it's not limited to that. It's all over the world. Why don't you talk about some of the locales that come up in this trilogy?
Jack, why don't you take that?
Yeah, sure. Obviously, we talked enough about Jekyll Island off the coast of Georgia, and Steve talked about its worldwide span. The part of the book opens in North Africa as World War I drives to a close, and that's really what sets things in motion. Is something amazing that happens in North Africa, and so what else? Let's see. There's our anarchists also want to demonstrate their villainous intent, kind of demonstrate to the world that they mean business. And there's some action scenes in Paris. There's a major action sequence in Chicago, and a climax of book 1 in New York City as well. So when our anarchists are trying to prove to the world that they're just not some fly-by-night little guy, that they mean business and they have the means to destroy things and wreak havoc, they go all over the world to demonstrate that power. In addition to, anarchists mailed bombs all across the country, and so people all over America were being delivered packages that would explode in their doorway, and in real life that actually happened and killed and maimed people. So we have scenes like that happening in Washington D.C. and in Seattle and other places. So because of the anarchist breadth of their tyranny, that sent our story all over the world.
Yeah, and the story sets out. I mean, it picks up at World War One, like they were saying earlier. So then you got World War One, that's over, and then there's like somewhat of a power vacuum in certain places around the world, and then you see the anarchists take hold, and then there's this struggle following that. So including this kind of gets into our next giveaway. You mentioned several places. England, one of those places. So let me
bunch in book 2. We've got book 2 a lot in London. So the Brooklands racetrack, Crystal Palace. We even go up to Scotland to Fingal's Cave, the salt mines of Portugal. We're in a lot of different places. So, but book 2 really does focus a lot on what was going on in London at the time.
All right. So this next giveaway question, we're gonna find out if there's any like history buffs or just kind of. This one might be a little hard. So let's see if somebody can get it right off the bat. All right. So which well-known British museum was housed in the massive glass structure in South London known as the Crystal Palace? Which well-known, I don't know if it's well-known here, British museum was once housed in the massive glass structure in South London known as the Crystal Palace? So let's see if somebody knows the answer to that.
That's a tough one.
Let's see.
We might have to give people hints.
It's not there anymore because the Crystal Palace is not there anymore.
But that museum, I believe, moved.
Yeah, it did move, and the museum still exists.
Yeah.
And
so there was a museum inside the Crystal Palace. What was it called? What was the museum called that used to be inside the Crystal Palace, but neither of them are there anymore? So let's see.
There were plenty of weapons and aircraft and other artifact on display there.
All right. Well, this is a tech. We're high tech. We're here on Instagram, so I'm thinking people know about Google.
They probably do.
So there was a damn museum inside the Crystal Palace. Somebody look it up and get a free prize. And then you can read more about it. Nope, still don't have it.
I love that answer, the Great Exhibition of 1851. I love that, but that's not the right answer to this question.
Get in there. What was the museum? Let's see. There is. I'm gonna wait a few more seconds, then we'll give a hint because I'm not seeing it, and we can blame Steve. Oh, nope, close. No, not close, actually. All right, it has war in the name.
There is war in the name of this museum.
War is in the name of this museum that used to be housed inside the Crystal Palace in London.
Oh, there we go.
There it is. Satori May, you got it. It is the Imperial War Museum. So what did they win, Steve?
Well, what they won is, first of all, let's find out where they're located, because that might have something to do with it.
I think they're in the U.S. Satori, you're in the U.S., right?
All right. For this particular question, because the Crystal Palace is so much in book 2, we're giving out book 2, signed by the creators, and Jack.
The Chick-fil-A. All right.
Like that, folks. I'm telling you, there are other gifts, but yeah.
Chick-fil-A, always a fan favorite. All right. So let me ask. So as you guys are writing about all these different locations across the globe, like any personal connections to any particular area, or was it like, just based off history books or whatever, or were any personal connections to any of the locations other
Yeah,
than Georgia?
yeah. We went to Cologne on a Viking River cruise, uh, and absolutely loved it. So we were at Cologne Cathedral, and just sitting there. Jack was there, and Ed was there. We're looking at, because we're like great friends, and we take trips and stuff together, and we're looking at each other, going, "Dang, this is amazing." And we got to put this in there somewhere. So um, things like that. When I go to London, I spend time in the Camden area, in the Hampstead area. So there's even one location in book 2 that is a pub that is called, in the book, it's called, what's it called, Jack? It's what's the pub that's in American Werewolf? Oh my gosh, I've drawn a blank.
The bloody
Slaughtered Lamb.
Slaughtered Lamb.
Yeah. In book 2, it's the Slaughtered Lamb, but that pub is really called the Washington, and it's in Hampstead. So the little bits and pieces like that of things that we've liked and places that we've gone over the years will find themselves into the books. And there's I want to go. I want to go to Scotland. I want to go to Fingal's Cave, and I've never been there. I want to go because I saw a picture of it, and we put it in the book, and now I want to go there. So,
And Steve and I both have Czechoslovakian ancestors, and so book 3 scenes that you'll see that play out in Prague. Some really gorgeously illustrated scenes in Czechoslovakia. So that calls back to our history as well.
And let me out in book 3, Ollie, to your question, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I'm going to give some shout outs to Winston-Salem, North Carolina. My sister lives there. I went to school there. I met my wife there. 2 of my 3 kids went to Wake Forest. I teach at Wake Forest, part-time. And there's a community in Winston-Salem called Old Salem, and it's locked in time. It's a part of Winston-Salem that is just like going back into time. And so we did a lot of thinking about, well, we should do something like this, bring that into the story. And, there's parts in book 3, Renolda House in Winston-Salem.
Well, hopefully your wife isn't watching, because that should have been your first answer.
It was my first tour.
All right, so you mentioned book 2, so I got the next giveaway question is about something that happens in volume 2. All right, so I'm not gonna be as strict on this one, but it's not just the thing, it's also by whom. So, all right, we kind of heard about this a little bit maybe, but so what event literally rocked Wall Street on September 16th, 1920? Something happened, and who did it? So what event happened that rocked Wall Street September 16th, 1920, and who did it?
And they don't really have to know the.
Yeah, just generally. Not Black Friday.
Oh,
by who?
There we go. I see it. Hide.
We see that, but I want to know who. Like, just generally, who was responsible? So, what happened and then some kind of generic description. Who?
Bombing Reds, close. Commies.
Oh, yeah. Bombing by the Italians, sort of.
By the Galleanists, yes.
All right, so we're gonna go with, which one do you want to award it to?
I'd say we'll go to the carried out by the Galleanists.
All right. MB Comer. They say you win, you win. All right, MB Comer. What does MB Comer win? Yes, it was the bombing of Wall Street by Italian anarchists under the leadership of Luigi Galleani.
And you can go to Wall Street today and see the shrapnel marks on the side of the building from that bombing, even today.
Yeah, and New Yorkers don't have any idea that their city was bombed in 1920. In fact, it was the largest terrorist attack by an outside the country organization until September 11th. And the scars are still there. And people don't know. This all goes back to part of what we were finding in history. All these amazing things were going on, and we didn't learn about any of them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So what does MB Comer win?
You tell me, Ali, what does MB Comer?
Okay, all right. MB Comer wins. Oh, okay. So MB Comer, you have an awesome prize. So our friends at Culture City, they're giving you a great prize. It's noise canceling headphones from Puro Labs, and they actually have the Culture City logo on them. So we're gonna get you some free noise canceling headsets just for that right answer. So congratulations, MB Comer. So those are awesome. I have a pair. You're gonna love them. All right. So and shout out to Culture City for giving those prizes or that prize for today. All right. So where are we at? So we've covered the people. We've covered the locales. There's a lot of tech in this saga. Why don't you talk about, some of the tech we see? Is it old? Is it new? Is it retro? Like what? Tell us about some of the tech that people see.
Yes, all of that. Yes, it's old. Yes, it's new. Yes, if you guys have heard of steampunk, and maybe some of you have heard of diesel punk. It's the second cousin to steampunk, or it's next chronologically, right? When diesel became the fuel of choice for the world. So diesel punk is kind of that aesthetic vibe that we went with. We love steampunk for sure, but we were talking about the 1920s. So it was time for diesel to take its place, and so a good diesel punk look is the aesthetic vibe of our book, and absolutely came across real inventions, things that were really being created and had been created that the world or a lot of people, a lot of you guys, a lot of us had not even seen before, and we came across things. Are you kidding me? Someone invented that, or someone. And then, there's an example of something we wanted to invent. We knew our hotshot pilot needed an aircraft that didn't exist yet, so we decided to enlist some incredible minds to help build this amazing hovering airplane that had never been seen before. So we created inventions. We tapped into inventions that were really around at the time, and of course, we had the luxury of having extremely wealthy people help build these things. But history served us. History served us quite well.
Yeah, and these folks coming up with really cool ideas that they couldn't commercialize yet. What's really interesting is when you go back and you start to, when does something like air condition come into play for cars? When was bulletproof glass invented? All these things were invented around the same kind of time frame, but they weren't commercialized yet. So they existed, but it was going to cost much for the average person to get them. We kept saying things like, what kind of car would Henry Ford have if he had his personal car? Would it be a black Model T, or would it be something that had all the bells and whistles of what technology could do? What would Andrew Carnegie be able to do with technology if they have to commercialize it? Or Nikola Tesla, or Charles Steinman. So we're constantly pushing it. It's tough to call it diesel punk. It's tough to call it steampunk. I like to call it retro high tech. It's old fashioned high tech that looks really cool when you see it on the screen and you go, holy cow. Or when you see it in the book, you go, holy cow. How did they do that?
Yep. So, I mean, it is like, it is. I mean, I'm a gamer, and like the whole like steampunk thing, like it definitely is cool to see. And then just here, you also have these like real life figures kind of in part of that, and just seeing just there's actually a lot of flexibility with all these ideas and these creators that are actually real. And actually, we're going to get into some things that are going to highlight some more of that tech in a second, and you're going to win. People are going to win some more stuff. So
And one thing that's important,
Ahead, Jack.
if we were gonna build an invention or imagine an invention or some vehicle or something for our story, we wanted to make sure that the technology that we were highlighting actually was existed at the time. The technology that supported that. So if it was able to hover, or it was able to emit some sort of shock wave, or if it was able to emit some sort of ray that destroyed cities, whatever it was, we wanted to make sure that the know-how was actually in place at the time. So we were not gonna lean on some sort of crystals from outer space. We were gonna make sure that these things could have happened if the technologies were all brought together at the right place by the right person at the right time. It actually could have happened. So that was really important to tap into existing tech at the time.
And we found out too that, I mean, very interesting facts like Tesla actually did have plans for a death ray, and it was called a death ray. But his intention was, of course, for countries to have access to it. They wouldn't go to war with each other. So it's a precursor of like nuclear bomb, and those kind of things, those kind of plans, those kind of ideas were out there, and they were real. And we put a little bit of form around the idea of a death ray and the plans for the death ray, and how the anarchists, come in and they grapple for the plans, try to steal them. So that's all part of what's going on during the course of the saga and the trilogy.
All right, let's give people a giveaway based on some of this technology talk. So we've heard about some of the technology. So here's the next giveaway question. And somebody's going to win some tech. That's a hint. All right, so Alexander Graham Bell, best known as the inventor of the telephone, also played a pivotal role in the invention of what type of watercraft? Alexander Graham Bell, who most people just know for the telephone, he also had a pivotal role in the invention of what type of watercraft? First person to guess this in chat is going to win some tech themselves. This one's going to be pretty specific because I already told you it's a type of... Papa. Let's give it. Is hydrofoil good?
That's it.
Good with hydrofoil, or we want more specific?
No, hydrofoil.
It's good, but let's make sure that people only win one thing. So
yeah. So I got on my end. It's Papa Desencob. So Papa Desencob. I'll write it. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but Papa Desenbob. You guys can get into what an HD4 hydrofoil is, but in the meantime, Papa Desencob, you won another pair of noise-canceling headphones from Culture City and Puro Labs. So I'll get you down for that. But yeah, why don't you? So congratulations to you. And why don't you guys talk about this HD4 hydrofoil? What is that?
Jack.
Well, some of you might be familiar with hydrofoils, but it takes the concept of an airplane wing, right? We know what an airplane wing does. It basically, in that it creates lift with the right forward speed. It helps create lift to lift the aircraft off the ground. Well, they realized that concept might work if you put that same wing type foil into the water. Would it lift the body of a boat or a ship off the surface of the water? The surface of the water was and the body of the boat was what created drag, and it really slowed boats down. So they were like, how can we speed boats up? Well, we got to somehow get the body of the boat off the surface of the water to get rid of that drag. So, well, what if we used an airplane wing and stuck that underwater and created lift? And so a hydrofoil lifts the body of the boat out of the water while the wing stays just under the surface of the water, and they can achieve speeds they'd never achieved before. And they did. They were starting to push, finally 50 miles an hour, 80 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour, because they could use this hydrofoil technology. It plays an important part of our book for getting our heroes across the Atlantic in record time.
Awesome. So, Steve, actually, one thing I want to make sure we get into, since we don't really want to show spoilers from this. And by the way, so this is Jekyll Island Chronicles. Like we've been saying, you can pick this up all over the place. So please show some love. Trust me, like it's great. I read it. I mean, True Confessions. I don't read much because I don't have a ton of time, but I made time for this. You guys are gonna enjoy it, especially if you're a history buff or a sci-fi buff or all the above. You guys will enjoy it. I'm not just saying that. But I want to, since we can't show the actual story because of spoilers, Steve, you have some cool model, you have some merch and draft kind of stuff. Why don't you show them some of this stuff that you have using the world that you created, or you guys created?
Be happy to. We, one of the things that we have found when we were going through this and putting this project together is that we had friends come out of the woodwork to kind of help us. I want to give a shout out to the folks at Legacy Effects out in LA. A buddy of mine, Alan Scott, who I've known for years, found out that I was doing this, and he goes to he goes to Comic-Con in San Diego every year. He just drives down. These are the guys that built Mandalorian. These are the guys that built Baby Yoda, that built the Jurassic Park dinosaur, and they were. They said, "Hey, can we make your costume for you?" So what I'm getting ready to show you is, let me see if this will work here. Turn this around. Yeah. Oops, sorry.
You press it again.
Yeah, I did. Here we go. So the costume and the chest plate for Peter Karavik, who is our mechanical man, our large 8-foot tall veteran whose legs were blown off, but Carnegie makes him a set of metal legs that can hoist him up in the air that high. All of this was built by the guys that build the Mandalorian. They're just phenomenal, and it's part of our costume. In fact, down here, I'll show you, this is one of Peter Karavik's metal legs. It's nothing more than sheetrock stilts. Seriously, my son had to learn how to walk on sheetrock stilts, and my son is 6'5", so he is walking around the Comic-Con Convention Center in San Diego, and he is 8 feet tall when he's walking around wearing this. Other stuff that's going on, we've had to make our own props for Comic-Con using craft foam and gerbil balls and stuff. Maquettes that we're building of the characters. This is a maquette of Peter Karavik that I just finished because I'm a model maker. In this room, you'll see a lot of my models, my original stuff, and as well as a bunch of old Aurora kits that I still have. But went in and built all the metal legs for him, and even used things like composition notebook spirals to create the springs. A lot of fun. And then here is one of our posters that we are going to be giving away soon in one of our prize packets. So that's an original Jekyll Island Chronicles poster. We just have a lot of stuff like this, and it's scattered around the house. And I enjoy bringing people over and showing it to them, and they tend to get a kick out of it. So thought that the viewers might want to see that as well.
All right, that was awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So what I want to do is, we got another giveaway, and then I see a request actually from a big fan and supporter of the series, Don. I see his request. We're gonna let him in 1 second, Don. So if you're there, I'll bring you in a second. But first, let's do another giveaway question. This is mostly probably in book 3. So you mentioned book 3. You finished the trilogy. Like I said, there's 3 books you guys can pick up all over the place right now, including Amazon, Target, Walmart. Like, just Google it, lots of options, or even the website itself. Okay, so which U.S. president, famous for the Teapot Dome scandal, was also known for, let's say, his extramarital kind of relationships? So U.S. president, famous for the Teapot Dome scandal, also known for some extramarital things. Let's see. Who can guess the president? So, let's see. There it is. We got it. It was Roscoe in the Hizzle. Warren G. Harding was the correct answer. So what did Roscoe win, Steve?
I believe that Roscoe won the book 3.
Oh, you want me to tell you? Yeah, he
Chronicles,
wins book 3, signed
right,
by the creators.
by the creators, with, in addition,
Chick-fil-A.
coupons. And what you were talking about is what we do in book 3. I mean, there it is, where he dies. The death of Warren G. Harding in book 3. So yeah, lots of historic things that happen.
All right, let's get, so as I was mentioning, we're gonna get Don barging in here to he's a big comic collector. He's a fan of this series, and he's been a big supporter of it. I want to get some of his insight into this and what was so captivating and enjoyable for him. So, Don, hopefully, I just sent you an invite. Let's get you in here if you're still there. Let me see.
Come on, Don.
Let me send him a request too, just in case. Oh.
We are so grateful like Don, who have been with us all along this journey and have really helped us and supported us, donated to Kickstarters that helped us be able to raise the money to get these things published. Because when you're publishing graphic novels, you have to pay for every single thing. You have to pay illustrators, you have to pay colorists. You're not just writing a book. And the production of a graphic novel is expensive. So we have to have friends and fans and family members and anybody that we can lean on to donate to Kickstarter has been able to do that for us. And they've actually funded 2 of the 3 books have been Kickstarter funded. And there's one of our friends, Don, who's been a key contributor for us. Hey, buddy, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me. This is I love hearing the story again. I've heard it before, and it's just great. So thank you for having me.
Hey, welcome, Don. Welcome to Elite Comics 11. And yeah, so we wanted to bring you in as somebody who's kind of, been in since the early days, just kind of as a comic collector. You want to talk about some of the things that really captured your attention on the series?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Allie. First of all, big fan of yours. I love what you guys do at Elite Comics. So keep doing that. And I'm so appreciative of Culture City supporting this too. I mean, they're an incredible organization. But yeah, I tell you, I've known Jag for forever. I was trying to do the math a few minutes ago, Jag. I don't want to date ourselves, but I think we're in 45, 46 years now, coming up as friends when we were little. But I'm an avid collector. A lot of people know me in the comic book community. I collect verticals, hardcore. I mean, I've got every Fantastic Four, all the Amazing Spider-Mans, going back, and I love the Silver Age of comics. And there's a specific, well, there's 2 reasons why. Number one, I was there. You know, that's the ones I used to buy, off the rack, the 12 cents, 15 cents, 20 cents. And oh my God, this world's going to come to an end when it hit 25 cents, per comic. I couldn't believe that. But I was there. But the best thing about Silver Age, and this ties back to what these 2 guys have accomplished at Jekyll Island Chronicles, is in the Silver Age of comics, the art and the storyline didn't fight each other. And to me, that was fascinating. So you had these great artists. Everybody talks about Kirby and Ditko and Armino and all those guys. They were fantastic. And then the writers, obviously Stan Lee and some of the others were great. But you read it and you felt like you were in it. And I hate to say it, but some of the modern comics, they overwhelm you with art. And some of the art, you look at, oh my gosh, these people are so talented, but you kind of get a headache because there's too much going on. So I always crave that story and art where it meets together and it complements each other. And that's what they did with Jekyll Island Chronicles. You're reading through it and you can admire the art and not get lost in the story or lose the story. And you can love the story and not get lost in the art. So they just did an amazing job of taking this alternate universe world and bringing it together. But I'm telling you, the art is stunning, the story is stunning, and they go together perfectly. So I've given it away 100 copies, and I'll keep doing it. And I'm hearing back from people who are introducing their children to comics because, sometimes you got to say, why buy a comic when the movie's better? When you're watching Avengers and things like that, so these young kids aren't getting into it, but they're getting into it because of Jekyll Island Chronicles and what they've been able to accomplish. So kudos to Jack and Steve and Ed and everybody else, because they did something that takes an old guy like me out of my comfort zone, pulls me out of the Silver Age, and makes me say, "Wow, they've done it." So just huge kudos to all of them.
It's great, and this it does bring up something that we mentioned, but I want to highlight. I mean, we sell all kinds of comics on our channel, some of which you could never show a kid, but like
Right.
there's a lot of educational. There's alternate history, but there's real history. So on that note, it's been really important for you guys to actually do educational outreach using this book. Why don't you guys talk about that a little bit so people know that that's going on?
Yeah, we really wanted to write a story that we could tell our children. We wanted to write a story that we could tell our grandchildren, and we wanted kids to be able to learn history and dig in a little deeper and figure out what is true and what is not true. I mean, that's so important to be able to figure out where's actually the truth lie in this historical journey that we're on. And so we have worked with not elementary, but middle school and high school teachers to develop curriculum that is being taught. There's one school in particular where the 6th graders are learning book 1, the 7th graders book 2, the 8th graders book 3 of the Jekyll saga. They're learning history, and they're learning it in a fun way, and they're learning it in a way where the teacher can say, okay, now some of this in here is true and some of it's not true. And your job as a student is to do research and determine what's true and what's not true. And we have families all the time that come up to us if we're doing a signing, and the kid invariably will be drawn into a lot of the sci-fi or the superhero vibe, but their parents will be standing there, and their parents will love it as much as kids do, because parents are into not just the Silver Age, feel that, that like Don was talking about, but also the fact that they're keyed in on the history, and they're loving the fact that they're learning all kinds of stuff they never knew before. And that's just been a treat. And if a teacher is out there that wants to get the books, IDW does a great job of giving discounts to teachers for these kind of things. We have on our website all the teaching materials that you need for book 1. Book 2 is being posted. Book 3 is being worked on right now. So you've got Black Line for students. You've got the teaching guides and curriculum. We've been in front of hundreds of social studies teachers in Georgia, and people haven't seen anything like it. It is very, very different. It's very useful. So we're happy that it tells a great story, but it also teaches.
And we
so if you're a teacher out there, you can get this material from JekyllIslandChronicles.com. If you go on there, there's a link for teaching. You can click on that, or even if you're a parent and you want to use this as a teaching resource, there you go.
Yep.
And we'll speak to student groups, or we'll go to schools and talk quite often. And we know we've hit a great nerve with these kids, and we really just where they in the story when they're drawing fan art for you, right? I've gone to a group of middle school kids, and they at the end, they just couldn't wait to show me this fan art that they drew. And you really know you get home when a couple of the kids say, not only is this there we go, Steve's holding up some fan art that a child drew from one of our talks at a school. When she said, this is my home screen on my iPhone. Man, if we made your iPhone's home screen,
wow,
that's an honor right there. I mean, that is it. Yeah. We've reached the pinnacle there.
We've had students do animations of our covers. We've had students do animations of our characters walk. We just are surprised at how people just are keying into it, and we're just honored. I mean, it's so humbling to work on something that we enjoy, because you never know if anybody's going to like it. If it's any good when you're working on it, you hope it's going to be good. But to come back and have people talk about it, do it, or draw their own pictures of it, it just makes you feel like you did something significant,
Yeah. So good job to you guys for emphasizing that. So not only can you just pick this series up because you just want to read something awesome, the saga's out, we've been talking about how you could buy those, but if there's also you want to use it as a teaching resource, it does appeal to all ages. So we have just a few more minutes left. I want to give out. We have some massive giveaways to give out to kind of wrap this up, and then I also want to definitely make sure we let the audience ask some questions. So let me just. I'm gonna do 2 more giveaways, and then we'll open it up to a little Q&A. Okay. So, all right. Here's the next question. The next giveaway. In 1918, World War I, I mean, it took many U.S. lives. But what widespread event drove down life expectancy by almost 12 years during that same year? So 1918, World War II, what widespread event drove down life expectancy by almost 12 years? And we will accept that. It's a typo, but Spanish fly, Spanish flu. That's correct. Highborn,
Okay.
you are the winner.
Spanish fly actually drove up life expectancies, I believe.
All right. So Steve, you want me to read out the prize?
Yeah.
Or okay. So the Highborn, you are gonna get the special. You get a special Jekyll's Island Insider prize packet, including a poster, San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, and the original pitch packet, which showed early concepts in development. So how's that? Congratulations.
Super rare.
Highborn, you're going to win all that. So congratulations to you. Thank you very much. And then let's follow right back up with another giveaway. All right. So this will be, I'm going to add to this one actually too. So whoever wins this one is going to get a bonus from Elite Comics also. So, all right. So the World War II Harlem Hellfighters were fighting forces comprised mostly of African-American soldiers, but they fought under the leadership of another country. What country was that? So Harlem Hellfighters, World War I, mostly African Americans in that unit, but they flew under the leadership of another country. What was that country? This is one you no, not yet. There it is. And I apologize in advance for this member of our community that we love. Chupa mi verga, you won. Good to see you. So you won, and what Chupa? What did you win? Well, here we go.
And where is he? Are they located? Where?
They're in the U.S.
Okay.
They're in the U.S.
Great.
Let's see. So you won, Chupa. You won the complete Jekyll Island Chronicles trilogy, signed by the creators. You win all that. You win. That's over 500 pages of action adventure signed by the creators, and then Elite Comics 11. You're gonna have a $30 voucher good on our page for anything. You could use it on a consignment comic that you pick up off the page. You could use it at a live show. You just let us know when you want to use the $30 credit, and we will honor it. So congratulations, Chupa. Okay, so that's all we got for the giveaways. Congratulations. But I definitely want to set aside the next few minutes to let people ask any questions on any of this. And again, this is Jekyll Island Chronicles. You can pick up the first book everywhere, or you can pick up all 3. Just Google it, you'll find it, or you could go to JekyllIslandChronicles.com, and it's all there. Let's see. Yeah, somebody thinks they played Battlefield, and it had the Harlem Hellfighters in it. Battlefield 1. Yeah, that took place in World War I, I'm sure. Did you? Let's see. Any questions for anybody on the screen?
Why was Tesla
Who was?
forgotten? I'd,
Why
I'd say
was?
I'd say Edison and Westinghouse stole the spotlight, right? And stole some ideas too. Maybe that's why Tesla was forgotten.
Yeah. So Roscoe's asking, like, I talked about how it shows real history versus the version that happened in the story. So like we get in the story, there'll be like real life news clippings of the history we know, the history we were taught, and then the story will actually kind of give you like the wink wink, like alternate version of like what really happened behind the scenes. So I don't know if I don't really want to give an example that spoils anything, but I don't know if you guys want to say anything other than that.
Well, yeah, there's, I mean, there are a couple things that aren't spoilers. For example, in our research, we did some discovery that we put into the story that was not real, but it was kind of real. For example, there was a bridge that was planned to be built in New Jersey, and it had plans. It was designed. It was going to be under construction. It never got built. I mean, and that's the real story. In our book, we actually show it, and it's built, and ships are, floating underneath it, and we call it the West Jersey Bridge or something like that. So it is. We find all these things that were intended to be built that were not built, or some things that we thought maybe should have been built, like a tunnel under Gibraltar, from northern Africa all the way to Gibraltar. That shows up prominently in book 1. So there are a lot of things that maybe kind of sort of could happen or didn't quite happen the way that they were supposed to. And then there were some life expectancy issues with some of our characters where they died a little earlier in real life than we wanted them to, or that we needed them
to. Yeah.
That we needed them to. So we extended their lives a couple months. But we tried to be true to, some other facts regarding their deaths. So, yeah, it's been a lot of fun trying to pick this all, apart and then put it back together again.
So this is the trilogy here. There's 3 books, like we've been talking about. They all exist. Is that it? Do we have any plans for a 4th? Is there a new sub-series? Anything you can talk about yet anyways? Or somebody was asking that.
What's funny is when this all started in my basement all those years ago, the original idea was 10. We were going to do 10 books. And once we got done with 3, that was going to be about enough, because 3 books took us from 2012 when we had our first meeting, or 2013, all the way to last year when we published, the 3rd one. So that's a pretty good chunk of time in between just 3 books. Mm-hmm. You're talking about 8 years. And we just kind of said, we're going to take a pause, but IDW owns the entertainment rights. And you never know what's going to happen with entertainment rights. And there are people that are interested. There are people that are talking to each other. So if it winds up being something like Game of Thrones, where we have to kind of come back together and sit around the table and figure out what else happens next, I think we can.
Oh well.
I guess. Let me ask you that. Oh, were you gonna say something?
I guess we'll do it.
I got another question from Alan Jester. So I kind of wanted to, this is, so in your research, because you did historical research for this, who ended up being someone that you admired the most, like in your historical research?
Yeah, this might touch us in different ways. We might answer this in different ways. I'm going to say for me, and I'm not meant to be a cop-out, but it is veterans. So we had to dig in and understand veterans, understand the heart of war veterans, and realize that World War I veterans were just forgotten for the most part. But then just what it means to go do that, and then to try to come back and regain some sense of normalcy in life, and how hard that is. So I just had this whole newfound respect for our combat veterans, just moved by their stories.
Yeah, and the stories of the veterans that, that thought they were going to go out and fight and come back to a different world that they didn't come back to, which is why the Harlem Hellfighters, are featured significantly in 3. and then specific members of the folks that fought. For example, there was a fellow named Henry Johnson, who, again, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, born in Winston-Salem, who went out, and he was the first soldier to win a Medal of Honor from the country of France. He was a black World War I soldier. He won the Medal of Honor. He was just, I mean, years and years later, was finally honored in this country. But he was the first one to be honored. And we figure him prominently in book 3. And the sad part of that story is how he died poor, how he died, you know, just in poverty and was not remembered. And how these men marched off to something that they didn't, it wasn't even in their backyard. And they marched off to do their civic duty, and they marched off to, you know, like my grandfather in a trench, or my dad in Korea in a foxhole. You know, all the veterans that have come after that, we dedicate every single one of our books at the end to the veterans. So Jack is right. I mean, there are a lot of stories in there. You can talk about Steinmetz, you know, and finding out interesting things about him, and interesting things about some of the other ones that are well known. But every time you come back to the veterans, your jaw drops because of what they sacrificed.
And when you're talking about a Medal of Honor winner as well, right? That's the highest honor, and that means a selfless act in combat. And so there's a theme there in our stories. We hope that comes through, and that's selflessness in our stories, where people are doing something for others and not for themselves. And so that's another reason why we think it's appealing to audiences, and that's really the greater purpose as to why we even did this. Yeah, we had a creative itch to scratch, but we also were compelled to do something important with our story, make a difference.
Yeah, we've gone through a really rough season of people being at each other's, and people being treating each other like they're enemies. And I mean, this has been going on for a while. And when we started this story, we created some cards that were thematic cards, and we said we want these cards to guide the entire. We don't know if it's one book or 10. We want these cards to guide us. Things like, you know, people actually do need to cooperate in life. We are better together when we're working to solve problems, and that, you know, we are given certain, you know, responsibilities that we need to meet. And so we wanted to make sure all these things were through lines in the saga. But the reality is that when you're talking about this particular, you know, trilogy in these 3 books, we're not trying to make perfect people. We're not trying to make perfect characters. Jack said very, very early on, you know, there's a cynical nature to a lot of out in the marketplace right now. And hey, don't get me wrong, I love Batman, you know, not as much as some people, but, you know, I've had a good amount of the Dark Knight. I want to see some light, and so we created these characters to be a little bit more knowledgeable about what they were fighting for, and what was really bad, and why they need to be fighting for it, why they need to sacrifice for each other, why they need to work together. It doesn't matter where you come, it doesn't matter who your parents are, and it doesn't matter how much money you have. If we all want to survive, we've got to work together. And that's part of the nature of the Jekyll Island Chronicles.
That's right. I mean, there's people from all walks of life that come together to do great things in this series. So it's all in there. And I mean, even if you studied history, there's a new angle to it. And if you didn't, like, you'll learn history definitely while you're reading through the saga. So Don, anything else you want to cover before we kind of wrap this up? It's been awesome, by the way. I really appreciate you guys kicking off this series with us.
Yeah, thank you for having us and highlighting this, because this is a story that needs to be told. And, you know, you started out this concept of what it takes to write a graphic novel and how they do it. And it really is about dreams coming true. I mean, Jack and I used to cut out comic books when we were little kids, you know, in the 60s and 70s and talk about it. And when I saw that he was doing this, I got emotional, because I'm like, he did it. He did something that we talked about, you know, as little kids. So it might take some time, but you know, you can get to it. But to be great, you got to be good. And Jekyll Island Chronicles is good. The art is good. The story is good. The theme is good. Everything about it is just good. And then when you stick all that together, the creation that comes out of it is great. And if anybody likes comics, they just got to get this and read it. And not just for yourself, but for your kids, to reintroduce a generation to this. It's just an amazing, and it'll stimulate something. Either they create it, or they read history, or they just enjoy life a little bit better. And those themes that Steve was talking about, and the creativity that Jack mentioned, it's just phenomenal. So I've never been more proud, outside my own kids, to see something happen. And everybody should be buying this. It's an amazing series of books.
So if you guys have been through, if you guys have been watching the whole thing, or you just tuning in right now, all 3 books are available right now for purchase. You guys can find them. You go to JekyllIslandChronicles.com. You can find them on Amazon. You can find them at Target. You can find them at Walmart's website, all kinds of places. So you can pick all 3 up right now. No need to wait for the next one. They all exist. So go pick them up. Tag Elite Comics 11 and anything Jekyll Island related. We will repost anyone that tags us on anything involving Jekyll Island. So
we try on our sites too, and give you backstory. If you go and you follow our posts on Instagram or on Facebook, you'll see a lot more detail on what we did and where we've been and what we've learned, and follow us along on our website as well. We're just so appreciative, and I meant to give a shout out to our artist for our 3rd book, Prentice Rollins. He's a DC Marvel vet. He'd be watching it in London right now, probably sleeping. But we have really upped the ante in the art on the 3rd volume. It's just been phenomenal, and everything is working together. We're really, really proud of how this whole thing closed out with this trilogy.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for kicking off Elite Spotlight, this new series, like I said, and it's a great read. So you guys pick it up. And again, shout out to Culture City as well, the charity we work with all the time. They do amazing work for people with sensory needs. So they donated, or they contributed 2 giveaways tonight. And Puro Labs as well, those noise canceling headphones. So congratulations to the winner on that. And thank you, Puro Labs, Culture City, for that. And you guys, you 3, I really appreciate you guys making the time. I can't thank you guys enough, okay?
Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks.
Having us has been
Awesome.
You guys take care. Whenever you guys want to come back and chat, you let me know, all right?
all right. Sounds
All
great.
right, take care. Thank you guys.
Bye.